Have you ever wondered who truly owns the moon? Is it possible that you or I could actually buy a piece of it? Or is the whole idea just a brilliant illusion, an exciting story that feels magical, but in reality carries absolutely no legal weight? Welcome back to KM Celestial Journey, where we dive into the most fascinating mysteries, stories, and debates that surround our universe. Today, we're exploring one of the most curious and controversial questions of all time. Who owns the moon? And why are people buying so-called lunar land that is legally worth nothing? This story is more than just science fiction. It's about history, law, ambition, and humanity's dream of conquering the stars. So buckle in, because by the end of this episode, you may never look at the night sky the same way again. It's been more than 56 years since Apollo 11's historic landing in 1969, when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin set foot on lunar soil. That single event changed history forever. Humanity realized that the moon was no longer just a faraway light in the sky, it was a destination. Since then, the moon has continued to spark the imagination of scientists, politicians, dreamers, and entrepreneurs. Nations like the United States, the Soviet Union, and later Russia, China, and India have all managed to successfully land spacecraft on the lunar surface. One of the most remarkable achievements came in 2023, when India's Chandrayaan-3 mission became the very first to reach the moon's south pole. That area is believed to contain large deposits of frozen water, resources that could one day support human colonies and fuel space exploration deeper into the solar system. And yet, despite all these technological triumphs and the many flags standing proudly in the moon's soil, international law is absolutely clear: no nation owns the moon. The foundation of this principle goes back to 1967, when the world signed one of the most important agreements in the history of space exploration, the Outer Space Treaty. Its full name is quite long: the Treaty on Principles Governing the Activities of States in the Exploration and Use of Outer Space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies. Signed by 109 countries and officially adopted by the United Nations General Assembly, the treaty established one guiding principle: outer space belongs to everyone and to no one at the same time. It clearly prohibits any nation from claiming ownership of the moon or any other celestial body through sovereignty, occupation, or any other legal trick. The treaty makes it clear: the moon is for peaceful exploration and use by all of humankind. But here's where things start to get fascinating. Despite the treaty, there have been repeated attempts to privatize lunar territory. Take the case of Martin Jurgens, a German citizen who famously claimed that the moon belonged to his family. His argument? He said it was a gift from King Frederick the Great of Prussia back in the 18th century. Of course, international law didn't recognize that claim. But the story caught attention because it shows just how much people want to believe in the dream of lunar ownership. Then there's Dennis Hope, an American entrepreneur who in the 1980s launched something called the Lunar Embassy. His business model was simple yet bold. He declared ownership of the moon, divided it into plots, and began selling deeds for lunar land at about $25 per acre. Incredibly, people actually bought them, and not just ordinary people, celebrities too. Hope's company inspired others, like the International Lunar Lands Registry, which continues to sell lunar deeds to curious buyers even today. And here's the shocking part: modern listings price an acre of lunar land at about $3,100 or roughly $3,750 in some markets. Yet here's the truth: under international law, these sales mean absolutely nothing. Neither individuals, nor corporations, nor entire countries can own property rights on the moon. The Outer Space Treaty made that very clear. So while the dream of owning a slice of the moon makes for a romantic gift, or even a cool status symbol, it is legally meaningless. But the treaty did leave behind one massive question: what about lunar resources? See, while the treaty says the moon itself cannot be owned, it does not specifically forbid the extraction of minerals, water, or other valuable resources. And this is where the real debate begins. Let's imagine this scenario for a second. NASA builds a permanent lunar station. Its astronauts extract water from the moon's surface, process it into rocket fuel, and use it for future Mars missions. Under current law, is that legal? Technically, yes, because the treaty bans ownership of the moon itself, but not the use of what lies on it. This loophole has set off heated global debates. Who gets to profit from these resources? Should one nation, or even one private company, be allowed to take what belongs to all of humanity? Or should there be an international system that makes sure the benefits are shared equally? In 1979, the United Nations tried to address this with the Moon Treaty. This agreement went further than the Outer Space Treaty by calling the moon the common heritage of mankind. It suggested that resource exploitation should be carefully regulated under an international regime. The idea was simple. If we extract resources from the moon, they should benefit all nations, not just the rich and powerful ones. But here's the catch. The biggest spacefaring nations, the United States, Russia, China, and others, refused to sign it. They felt it was too restrictive, too limiting, and too damaging to their national interests. As a result, the Moon Treaty failed, and today it remains a forgotten document with very little power. Fast forward to 2020. The United States, along with several partner nations, introduced something new, the Artemis Accords. Unlike the Moon Treaty, the Accords are not legally binding. They are more of a political framework, an agreement between countries to cooperate in the modern era of space exploration. The Artemis Accords promote transparency, peaceful exploration, and the sharing of scientific data. But here's the key point. They also recognize that resource extraction from the moon is legal under the Outer Space Treaty, as long as it does not mean national appropriation. In other words, a country, or even a company, can extract and use lunar resources. They just can't say they own the moon. This has opened the door to what many believe will be the next space race, not for land, but for resources. And the dream of lunar ownership hasn't just attracted governments. Celebrities and everyday people have jumped on the idea too. For example, the late Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput was reported to have owned a piece of lunar land bought by a fan as a symbolic gift. Superstar Shah Rukh Khan was also said to have received a plot on the moon from admirers. But again, as romantic as these gestures sound, the truth remains. They hold no legal weight whatsoever. The moon, under current international law, is unownable. No certificate, no registry, no deed can change that. And yet, the conversation doesn't end there. Because with the rise of private space companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and others, and with government missions like NASA's Artemis program aiming for a crewed return to the moon by 2026, the reality of permanent lunar bases is drawing closer than ever. China has also announced plans to send astronauts by 2030, and with every mission, the debate over ownership, mining rights, and governance grows more intense. So let's ask ourselves, what does the future hold? Will we see the moon carved up into zones of influence, each controlled by different nations? Or will humanity finally rise above territorial disputes and treat the moon as the shared treasure it was always meant to be? The answer is still unclear. For now, the Outer Space Treaty is our guiding light. It protects the moon as a shared domain, but it also leaves enough gray areas for conflict to brew. As humanity pushes toward becoming an interplanetary species, we face a critical challenge, balancing ambition with responsibility. Because the moon is more than just a rock floating in space. It is a symbol of unity, of discovery, and of our shared human journey. And so as you look up at the night sky tonight, remember this. No matter how many deeds are sold, no matter how many plots are promised, the moon belongs to all of us. It is the heritage of humankind, past, present, and future. The dream of owning it may never be real, but the dream of exploring it, understanding it, and protecting it, that is the story that will define the next century. Thank you for joining me on this incredible exploration. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most fascinating space debates of our time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to KM's Celestial Journey. Together, we'll continue uncovering the mysteries of our universe, one story at a time. Stay curious, stay inspired, and remember, the journey to the stars has only just begun.